Good morning. Good morning. Thank you, Marcia. You have such a beautiful voice, even when you're struggling with your allergies. It's just incredible. It is so good to see you, the top half of your faces anyway. I'm so glad that you're here today. I really am. I'm so grateful for the gift of your presence here. We made it through the winter. Happy spring. I'm celebrating by wearing my green stole today. And given to me by Janet Newberg many years ago. I don't get to wear it very often. We made it through the winter. It's time to thaw out, time to come out of hibernation. And when you're thawing out with others, it helps to have a good icebreaker. And by some way to icebreakers, that's when you try to get it unchilly and you relate with other people, and you need to have some way to start doing that. And here's the best icebreaker question I know. I sure wish I had known it many years earlier. It's like a key that opens so many doors, this icebreaker question. Some of you might already know it. I tell you about it every once in a while. I just think it's a great question when you're meeting somebody new. It's just the best way to open the book of another person. And the question is simply, tell me something about yourself. That gives them a lot of freedom to go in a lot of different directions. So today, just as the spring blossoms are unfolding, we can help each other unfold and bloom by asking the right question and then just watch and see what happens. So we have a fellowship hour after the service today, which is where we're going to do most of this fellowship connection. But why don't we take just a moment to look around and rise and greet those around you, especially greeting anybody who hasn't been yet greeted today. Take a moment, and then I'll ring the bell to convene us again.
Hello, Parker. How are you today? Go.
So every Sunday, I love it when I can't get you to quiet down, because that means you're connecting, and that's okay. Oh, I love it when I can't calm you down, because there's good interaction going on. So after the service today, we'll certainly continue those conversations. We're still rebuilding community after the pandemic, so I'm so delighted to see you connecting with one another. Please do so after the service. It's great to be here. Thank you for coming.
Ecclesiastes 7:24. That which is far off and exceedingly deep. Who can find it out? I applied mine heart to know and to search and to seek out wisdom and the reason of things. Let us be open to seeking out what we know and what we don't know as we say our affirmation. Love is our doctrine. Compassion is our way. Here we seek to create a joyful home for free religious exploration, build a community of caring fellowship, nurture the hope, and serve the needs of our world.
Imagine there's no heaven, isn't hard to do. Nothing to kill or die for, and no religion too. Imagine all the people living life in peace. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us, and the world will live as one. Imagine no possessions. I wonder if you can. No need for greed or hunger. Brotherhood of man. Imagine all the people sharing all the world. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us, and the world will live as one. Sing with me. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us, and the world will live as one.
If Parker will come and join me up here, we will light some chalices. Every Sunday, we light 3 chalices as a reminder of our connections to others. So Parker, if you would go ahead and come over here and light the first chalice in the middle. The first is for friends and members of this Unitarian Universalist congregation of Salem, all of us here. The second chalice, exactly, is for our partner church and friends in Szymon-Falva, Transylvania, Romania. And the third chalice is for our children and youth, both in religious education and in the world at large. Go ahead and blow that out. Thank you so much, Parker. Fabulous. Nice job. All right. Go ahead and go back and sit with your mom, Sarah. And now I'd like to introduce the congregation to our new partner church minister, Reverend Irshabe Dehenish. She writes that this ministry is a big opportunity to open a new chapter in her and her husband's life. She was born in 1995 on August 20th, which last year was also her wedding day. Her husband's name is Andras, which is in English Andrew, and now she is pregnant with their first child. She says, "We are so excited for the new congregation, new people, new relationships, as well as we can carry on the partnership between our church and UUCS. Blessings to her and her family as she starts this new ministry." Now please join me in singing The Flame into Life. Rise up, O flame, by thy light glowing, show to us beauty, vision, and joy.
Good morning. Can everybody young or young at heart please join me up front? Have a seat. Good morning. Today we are learning about life's simple gifts, which is perfect for this beautiful day. We're going to do a bunch of fun things, but mostly we're going to be going outside and enjoying nature, swinging from the trees, blowing some bubbles, having a good time. Can anybody here think of one of life's simple gifts that you like doing? Anybody? What? Living. Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, today I'm going to read Love by Matt de la Peña. Okay. In the beginning, there is light and two wide-eyed figures standing near the foot of your bed, and the sound of their voices is love. A cab driver plays love softly on his radio while you bounce in the back with the bumps of the city, and everything smells new and it smells like life. Love, too, is the smell of crashing waves and a train whistling blindly in the distance. And each night, the sky above your trailer turns the color of love. In a crowded concrete park, you toddle toward summer sprinklers while older kids skip rope and run up the slide, and soon you are running among them, and the echo of your laughter is love. On the night the fire alarm blares, you're pulled from sleep and whisked into the street where a quiet old lady is pointing to the sky. Stars shine long after they've flamed out, she tells you, and the shine they shine with is love. But it's not only stars that flame out, you discover. It's summers, too, and friendships, and people. One day, you find your family nervously huddled around the TV. But when you ask what happened, they answer with silence and shift between you and the screen. In your dream that night, you are searching for a love that seems lost. You open and close drawers, lift cushions, empty old toy bins, but there's nothing. You wake with a start in the arms of a loved one who bends to your ear and whispers, "It's okay, it's okay, it's love." And in time, you learn to recognize a love overlooked, a love that wakes at dawn and rides to work on the bus, a slice of burned toast that tastes like love. Right? And it's love in each deep crease of your grandfather's face as he lowers himself onto an overturned bucket to fish. And it's love in the rustling leaves of gnarled trees lined behind the flower fields. And it's love in the made-up stories your uncles tell and in the backyard between wild horseshoe throws. And the man in rags outside the subway station plays love notes that lift into the sky like tiny beacons of light. And the face staring back in the bathroom mirror. This too is love. So when the time comes for you to set off on your own, heavy winds will sweep past your building and great gray clouds will congregate above. Your loved ones will stand there like puddles beneath their umbrellas, holding you tight and kissing and wishing you luck. But it won't be luck you'll leave with, because you'll have love. You'll have love, love, love. Okay. All right, thank you. If everybody in the middle can please stand together to make the love arch, we'll be on our way.
Wherever you go, walk in love. Wherever you go, walk in peace. Wherever you go, walk in beauty all around you. Our hearts go with you.
Take a deep breath and be aware of your breath. As it comes in and it goes out. Feel the deeper rhythms of life as we are together. There I was sitting in my car. It's the far edge of a parking lot in a large store. Just before I was going in. In the rearview mirror, I see a young man approaching the driver's side, and he walks past. Terrible-looking young man, emaciated, very dirty, hair a tangle. He's stumbling. He walks right by. He doesn't see me. He's oblivious as he heads down to a hidden spot. It's out of sight. I think it's the call of nature, but then I see him pull out his drugs. Meth? Heroin? I don't know. And my heart aches. How did it come to this? Whose son is he? Is there no help for this poor, lost, and abandoned soul? And I feel helpless. The poet writes, "My heart is moved by all I cannot save. So much has been destroyed, I have to cast my lot with those who, age after age, with no extraordinary power, reconstitute the world." And we reconstitute our world through our compassion. Even though I can't help this young man, I can help others. I can be present. I can be a compassionate presence for others. There's so much for all of us to do in this hurting world. May we be aware of how we can walk the path of compassion and the path of gratitude. Even as I look at the sorrowful, sad things in our world, I'm also amazed by the miracle of life. How can so much come from so little? A tiny seed becomes a flower, becomes a plant, becomes a tree. A Jewish sage advises us, our goal should be to live in radical amazement. Get up in the morning and look at the world in a way that takes nothing for granted. Everything is phenomenal. Everything is incredible. Never treat life casually. To be spiritual is to be amazed. To be spiritual is to have a heart of gratitude. Compassion and gratitude is our path.
We have some joys and concerns, both written in the book and on our website. Those are also two good ways to express your joys and concerns to the community, either via the book or go on the website and follow the directions to get those. So I'll read the ones from the books. There's one joy and concern from Jackie O'Malley. She's very concerned about the upcoming primary elections, but also more joyful about the quality of some of the candidates. She has one in particular that she's particularly in support of, so she encourages you to connect with her during the fellowship hour to hear more about that person. Rich Ford expresses a concern. Our father passed away February 25th at age 99. He was released from a failing body. He led a good life and will be loved and remembered always. Faith also writes a concern, prayers for the 4 homeless people who died after being run over by a car that drove through a homeless encampment in Salem today. Always a concern. And then there are 2 joys. One was sent in from Cindy Francis, and this is in relation to a sermon that Reverend Rick did just a little while ago. She says, to answer Reverend Rick's question this morning, what brings lasting satisfaction? To quote Glennon Doyle, find what breaks your heart and what will be your purpose. Finding a purpose after retirement can be difficult. For both Bob and I, people living on the street is heartbreaking. Doing what we can to alleviate this has been fulfilling and brought us satisfaction. With a smile and a cup of coffee is offered, and a smile and thanks, bless you is received, it's satisfying. A little thing, but much appreciated by our unsheltered neighbors. And another joy I just heard about last night and confirmed by other people is that our Kay Giorgio went through some heart surgery successfully. So she is doing well. So that's a great relief to all of us. And we light one last candle for all the joys and concerns that remain within our hearts. One way to find support through this congregation is through the Lifelines Lay Ministry. They are people that help Reverend Rick through both hard times and happy times too. Please look on this slide for how you can connect with them, and you can also call the phone, and of course you can talk to Reverend Rick. Thank you.
We will sing together number 205, Amazing Grace, in the gray hymnal, number 205. I do have one request. When you're singing, please listen for harmonies you don't hear and feel free to sing them I promise to keep my guitar chords real simple. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now am found, was blind, but now I see. 'Twas grace that taught my heart to fear, and grace my fears relieved. I was did that grace appeared the hour I first believed. Through many dangers, toils, and snares, I have already come. 'Tis grace that brought me safe thus far, and grace will lead me home. When we've been there 10,000 years, bright shining as the sun, we've known last days to sing God's praise than when we'd first begun.
The years have passed by in a blink of an eye. Moments of sadness and joy have flown by. People I loved have come and have gone, but the world never stopped, and we all carry on. Life wasn't easy, and the struggles were there, filled with times that it mattered, times I just didn't care. I stood on my own, and I still found my way through some nights filled with tears and the dawn of new days. And now, with old age, it's become very clear. Things I once found important were not why I was here. And how many things I managed to buy were never what made me feel better inside. And the worries and fears that plagued me each day, and the end of it all would just fade away. But how much I reached out to others when needed would be the true measure of how I succeeded. And how much I shared of my soul and my heart would ultimately be what set me apart. And what's really important is my opinion of me and whether or not I'm the best I can be, and how much more kindness and love I can show before the Lord tells me it's my time to go.
Thank you, Sarah, and Marcia once again. Over the years, stretching back to my boyhood days in the Southern Baptist Church, which I left when I was about 16, until now, one of the books of the Bible that keeps pulling me back again and again is from the ancient Jewish sacred text, the Tanakh, which also constitutes that part of the Bible that Christians call the Old Testament. So this book, the book of Ecclesiastes, is equally familiar to Jews and Christians, not to mention many Muslims. It's officially attributed to King Solomon. This gives it credibility. They did this kind of thing in ancient times. They weren't worried about copyright laws or stuff like that. They wanted to give this book credibility, so they said it was by King Solomon, but it was actually written because King Solomon lived many centuries before the book was written. It was written by an anonymous sage who came to be known as Kohelet, which is just a Greek translation of the word Ecclesiastes. And this book, the Ecclesiastes, it constitutes that part of the scripture known as the wisdom traditions. And the wisdom traditions are quite different than what else is in the Bible because it's grounded in the wisdom tradition. Literature in the Bible is grounded in human observation and exploration. It is not to be considered a disclosure of divine revelation as other books are meant to be. It's more humanistic, actually. This book is really kind of an odd book in the Bible, and some people scratch their heads and say, why is this in the Bible? But there's a good reason. It's more humanistic. It's more attuned, as I was saying, to a Greek philosophical view rather than a traditional Hebraic perspective. One of the qualities that draws many people to this book, the book of Ecclesiastes, is its literary merit. The American novelist Thomas Wolfe said that Ecclesiastes is the single greatest piece of literature I have known. Yeah, the language, it's striking. It's powerful imagery. But it's the penetrating observations of the book that keep pulling me back. And before you dash off to enjoy it yourself, if you haven't already, I should warn you, this is not what you might expect to read in the good book, so-called the Bible. Ecclesiastes is one sage's uncompromising search for the meaning of life. And he starts off on a cheerful note. He says, the words of the teacher, the son of David, that is King Solomon, king of Jerusalem. Meaningless, says the teacher, utterly meaningless. Everything is meaningless. You may be more familiar with the King James translation, which says, all is vanity. Same difference, though. Simply put, the ancient sage is saying that everything in life is like vapor. It just disappears into nothing. And then Kohelet proceeds to make his point, describing how he, obviously a wealthy and a powerful man, he succeeded in acquiring all the pleasures of life and all the status and recognition that he thought his heart desired, and yet it always failed to bring lasting satisfaction. And why was that? Why? Because he could always see, as William James put it, the skull grinning at the banquet. Kohelet could always see the skull grinning at the banquet of life. That is, he cannot forget that no matter how much he has, no matter how much fame and wealth he has, death is looking at him, and death is coming for him. It won't last. It won't last. It doesn't make any difference how much wealth or acclaim you gain during your brief sojourn on earth, because it's not going to last. Even the search for wisdom, says Kohelet, even the search for wisdom is meaningless. For with much wisdom comes much sorrow. The more knowledge, the more grief. So why bother? So there's our message for today. Everything is meaningless. Everything. I want to thank you for showing up, and I hope that this gives you the needed uplift that you needed for the week ahead. You know, you can get the wrong impression with Kohelet when you start off reading it, because it's not exactly a message you'd find to read in the sacred text that life is meaningless, because one likely place that people end up when they feel that life is meaningless, it's just futile striving, where that leads people is into a state of mind that was first recognized and named by the early Christian monastics centuries ago. And they called this condition, this state of mind, which I'll describe in some more detail soon, they called it acedia, A-C-E-D-I-A, acedia. It was a word that was in fairly common usage up until the beginning of the 20th century, and because people are less interested in religion and spirituality, the word fell out of usage, so most people don't even hear the word. The monastics who first took note of acedia, of this condition, they lived quiet, often solitary lives. And of course, the reason for this, it was meant to lead them into higher realms of spirituality which brings us into deeper communion and connection with life and love. Yet strangely, these conditions, the solitude, the quiet, the whole thing, often left monks in lower realms, not higher states of spirituality, but lower realms of isolation and disconnection. And those who were so afflicted fell into states of spiritual listlessness, indifference, apathy, and there were no exit signs for how to get out of this. How do you get out of this state? Religious writer Kathleen Norris has studied and written a book on acedia. She was interested in it because she suffers from it. And her explorations led her to realize, I am not alone. I am not alone. She is far from alone. And she realized that the time may be ripe to resurrect this underused word to help many of us recognize what might have happened to us during the pandemic. The enforced isolation brought on by the pandemic is not unlike the isolation, the disconnect that the ancient monastics also experienced. And for some people, this solitude can be spiritually deepening. But for others of us, however, we've suffered from the loss of connection and a sense of community. And yet, even if we are quiet and solitude or sort of cut off paradoxically because of our TVs and our computers and our smartphones, we are overloaded with incoming information about the outside world, about all manner of dreadful things, which we should care about. Wars, the pandemic, famine, refugee crisis, genocide, climate change. It's all so much that you can feel overwhelmed and then indifferent. So what if you're indifferent? If life is meaningless, does it make any difference anyway? Why even care? Why care? Yet as you continue to read Ecclesiastes, you begin to realize that Kohelet was not stating a philosophical absolute at the beginning of the book when he says that life is meaningless. He's in dialogue with himself. And this is his way of expressing his profound disappointment with the failure of a certain approach to life. In short, Kohelet recognized that he who dies with the most toys wins. You know that, you've heard that, he who dies with the most toys wins. He realizes that he who dies with the most toys doesn't win, because that approach to life proves to be hollow, meaningless, because you do die, and you can't take your toys, your accomplishments with you. You will be gone and forgotten, dust in the wind. People in future generations will not even know you even existed. And that's true. That's true. Kohelet is, in effect, he's smashing false idols with a barrage of pessimistic pronouncements about the unsatisfying, unpredictable nature of life in which the rain falls on both the just and the unjust. Things aren't fair. things don't often go as you wish. As the Yiddish proverb puts it, people plan, God laughs. So Kohelet experiences a siege, it seems to me. He's struggling with it. His pessimistic pronouncements depict a world weariness, a disappointment, a bitterness. He just seems to give up caring. Here's what he says. So I hated life, because what is done under the sun is grievous to me. For everything is meaningless and a striving after the wind. I thought the dead, who are already dead, more fortunate than the living, who are still alive. But better than both is he who has not yet been and has not seen the evil deeds that are done under the sun. Whoa. He's not a happy guy. The medieval monastics referred to acedia, they called it a sin. Kathleen Norris doesn't think that language works so well today, and she says, to modern ears, a more effective term might be bad thoughts. Bad thoughts. Cognitive therapists recognize that the thoughts that we habitually, even unconsciously have over and over again, they affect us. And thoughts that convince you that life is meaningless, that nothing you do makes any difference, that nothing really matters, then that's not a good narrative to be listening to. I think that this is a more Buddhistic way of looking at it. It's not so judgmental. Acedia is a sin. It's the consequences you look at, and it doesn't lead to a happy life. The problem with acedia is that it can lead you to say and do things that people who no longer care will say and do, or not say and do. Dostoevsky's character in that novel, The Brothers Karamazov, Ivan Karamazov, he states that if there is no God, then everything is permissible. Or more broadly stated, if there is no moral order, and everything is random and meaningless, then all is permissible, because what the hell difference does it make? It's just a bunch of chaos anyway. Acedia can be hard to spot, though, because it does not mean that you are clinically depressed and inactive. It means that you are chronically oppressed by a deep down, perhaps even unconscious, sense of hopelessness. And thus you become spiritually inactive, spiritually disengaged, even if you live life at a frantic pace of getting and spending and doing. Getting and spending, we lay waste our powers, cautioned the poet Wordsworth. There was a journalist interviewing Norris, and she said that her prodigious study, Norris's prodigious study, shows us that acedia's reach is both wide-ranging and profound. She points to examples of how acedia has atomized within the culture the ploys of advertising that engender dissatisfaction, and our highly structured multitasking lives all sort of undercut a sense of a search for a deeper meaning. We appear, this reviewer of Norris's book writes, she says, we appear to be anything but slothful. Yet that is exactly what we are as we do more and care less and feel pressured to do still more. The problem with acedia is that you don't care. And so not caring is not recognized as a problem. It's the norm. It's like fish not knowing they're swimming in water. It's the frame of reference, especially if you're surrounded by people who are also spiritually disengaged in the same way. There's no frame of reference to say there's anything else, that there are alternatives to acedia, that state of, some people call it spiritual sloth, of not truly caring for oneself or others. I think that's what it boils down to. Acedia means that you really stop caring. You stop caring for yourself and others. And whether you call acedia a sin or bad thinking, it's important to recognize. This is why the ancient monastics recognized it, and Kathleen Norris is writing about it again. This is a perennial pitfall of the human spirit. Kohelet fell into it, falling into the state of acedia. If you call it a sin, you might think of a sin not in such judgmental terms, but etymologically, originally, sin means you miss the mark. And everybody misses the mark, so you try again. But you really miss the mark. Anyone misses the mark with acedia, because here's the spiritual math. Acedia equals a wasted, squandered life. And Kohelet realizes this. He realizes this. This is a dialogue. When he says life is meaningless at the beginning, that's not the final thing that he says in the book. He realizes that he has a choice. Kohelet finally realizes he has a choice between two basic ways of being, of living in the world. Seeking to have and control versus learning to enjoy and trust what is, moment by moment. Seeking to have and control versus learning to enjoy and trust that which is, moment by moment. The great psychologist Erich Fromm recognized this distinction. He wrote a book, To Have or To Be, which discusses that in some detail. And before him, Gandhi, as well as countless other good souls, clearly understood this distinction, these two ways of being in the world. And one day a journalist asked Gandhi, said, "Can you tell me the secret of your life in 3 words?" And Gandhi chuckled and said, "Yes, I can." That's pretty good, isn't it? But that's not what Gandhi said. I came up with that. What Gandhi said, the 3 words that Gandhi said, that's not bad though. Yes, I can. 3 words for success in life. But what Gandhi said, he said, renounce and enjoy. Renounce and enjoy. And in fact, Gandhi was quoting the ancient Hindu text, the Isha Upanishad, where you find that term, renounce and enjoy. What a concept. Renounce and enjoy. And Kohelet gets it, at least some. He finally recognizes the futility of trying to control and possess life. Man, he was a rich guy too. Read Ecclesiastes. This guy was a billionaire in his age, the equivalent of a billionaire. But he learns to stop trying to control and possess life. He learns to recognize that futile impulse, and he learns to enjoy each moment. And he writes, "I know that there is nothing better for us than to be happy and enjoy ourselves as long as we live. It is God's gift to us that everyone should eat and drink and take pleasure in his work." Whenever I've been reading this in the past, that's always been kind of a come down to me. I said, well, just enjoy your daily life, that's it. And it sounds like a mundane resolution. Just learn to enjoy your daily life. But look deeper at this daily life. This overlooks, if you think that's simply a mundane observation, it overlooks the unfathomable reality of this life that we do share from moment to moment. It's a reality perceived by the visionary poet William Blake, who invites us to see a world in a grain of sand and heaven in a wildflower. Hold infinity in the palm of your hand and eternity in an hour. I wonder what Blake was seeing when he wrote those lines. He was a real amazing person. The mystics commonly speak of being absorbed in a timeless eternal now and say that the gate to freedom is found here in this present moment of life. And so Kohelet learns to renounce his attachment to having and controlling that desire to have it all, to be effectively like an immortal God. And he comes to accept that we have our human limitations. We're called to enjoy this precious life we do have and to honor the mystery that's beyond knowing. And for Kohelet, God and the mysterious workings of the universe are really finally beyond human comprehension. That was our centering thought this morning when he says, that which is far off and deep. It's very deep. Who can find it out? Many interpret this to mean that Kohelet's God is very remote and indifferent. But I don't feel that way when I read that line. I take it more, I guess, through a Taoist lens. The Tao is the awesome mystery that cannot be named, it can't even be imagined or understood, and certainly not controlled. It is the sacred source that sustains everything. And so when Kohelet says it's beyond our knowing, for me, that feels okay. That means we're invited into a relationship of trust with all that is. Consider the vastness of our universe. I have a hard time wrapping my mind around it sometimes when I hear about how many stars are in a single galaxy, and then I hear that there are hundreds of billions of galaxies that are known in our universe. Wow. And when I think about the intricate web, the inexpressibly intricate web of life, and when I consider the reality of love and beauty and joy, when you consider these, you are moved to have a sense of awe and wonder. How profound and sublime that which is transcends the human mind. Who can fathom it? Who can fathom it? I like that. It's mystery. Ecclesiastes is, by design, it's incomplete. It lacks formal structure. It's more like the stream of consciousness. It's an internal dialogue that this ancient sage is having as he wrestles with the meaning of life. And his penetrating, even pessimistic, cynical observations raise more questions than provide answers. But reading something like this is actually a very helpful tool in dispelling worldly illusions. And it's important to dispel illusions, lest you later become profoundly disillusioned when your expectation of what you think your life is supposed to be, comes crashing down, and then you fall into the vaporous realm of acedia, where nothing really matters. And that is the biggest lie right there. That's the biggest lie. That your life doesn't matter. That you don't matter. If you listen to that false narrative, you will choose false paths that will lead you to realms, hellish realms, I would say, where no one really cares about anyone else. And that is the sin. Not caring, not sharing the life and the love we have today. For it is in that sharing and in that caring that we find our meaning. Amen. Would you join me as we let our spiritual imaginations float free? As we ponder upon our lives, the wrong turns we take, the heartbreaks, the disappointments, the frustrations, the anxieties, the pain, the sorrow, it can be so overwhelming. It can be so overwhelming. And yet, when you enter into the present moment of this life, you discover there is more beauty and more joy and more love than you had ever imagined. Our lives have deep meaning and purpose as we are called to be together, to heal one another's hurts, to hug one another when we're lonely and sorrowful, to be here, to share our love, to share our lives. May it be so.
True generosity is an offering, given freely and out of pure love, no strings attached, no expectations. Susie Orman. Those who have been lucky enough to have visited the people in Shimanfalva have seen and felt what true generosity is capable of. They too feel very fortunate to have us as their partner church, not only for the monetary assistance we give them to help with buildings where they can congregate, school supplies for their children, and vitamins for their health. They are also grateful for our friendship and honoring the Unitarian history and spirit that binds our two congregations. The Share the Plate recipient for the March is our partner church, in addition to our regular support of the Marion Polk Food Share. If you are in person, baskets will be passed among you very shortly, and you may donate. You may also place items in the little red wagon for the Marion Polk Food Share. You may also go online and donate that way by visiting our website. Thank you for maintaining the community of UUCS and for maintaining the wider community of Salem, and in this case, the world.
Inspired by love and anger, disturbed by need and pain, informed of God's own by
What a gift of a voice. I'm so glad to hear you sing here. Thank you for that. I don't want you to be alarmed at all if you own a Hyundai Tucson hybrid car out in the east side of the parking lot. I don't want you to be alarmed, but you should know that your alarm is going off, your car alarm. And since we're Unitarian Universalists, I'll leave it to you to decide how you want to deal with that. I think the alarm is about to be turned off. Thank you. It happens. Anyway, Jesse is here for an announcement about our microfinance fundraiser. So Jesse, come on up and tell us what's up.
The UUCS Microfinance Committee invites you to check out and purchase Basha products after the service, April 3rd and April 10th, in the Fellowship Hall. These beautiful items made by Bangladeshi women include blankets, scarves, bags, and clothing. The proceeds of the sale will benefit the women as well as our projects in India and Nicaragua.
Great. What an incredible program, the microfinance program. If you don't know much about it and want to learn about it, be sure to ask questions when you're at the sale. So we have a lot going on that I wanted to tell you about, a little bit anyway. Next Sunday, I'll be in the pulpit again, so I hope I'll see you. And tell some of the people who aren't here this morning to come too. We're trying to rebuild community. It's a good thing to see the space begin to fill up again. Let's see, I have here we go. Next Sunday, this is the last Sunday when you can register for a 4-week class. It's called Starting Point. We're going to do it here. We'll start around 12:15 after the service. Lunch will be provided. Childcare will be provided. This is a class for newer folks who want to learn about the history and the background and get to know other people better. But it's also for regular folks who would just like to come for a refresher. It's a good opportunity to learn about the path to membership and how to be part of this community. So please do consider registering for that. We haven't had a chance to do anything like this in a long time, so I'm really looking forward to it. And I'm grateful to the membership team for pulling it all together. And we also, I would urge you to look at the website. There's a number of announcements, but I don't want to go through all of them. But if you look at our website and news about us, you can go and learn about all the different types of activities and programs and ways to be involved that are there. So I will announce one. Tai Chi is starting soon. When is that going to be? April the 10th?
April the 10th.
April the 10th. So we'll be making announcements about that a little bit more, and some other things that are starting up as well. I think that's probably good enough for the announcements.
So Rick, don't sit down yet. Please bring the social justice candle up. Thank you. As you see, we're continuing to play with how we do things in the service. So Rick takes the light from our chalice, lights the social justice candle, reminding us of the love and light we carry out into the world through our different ministries. As he extinguishes the chalice, these words from Thornton Wilder's Our Town. When Emily says, "Oh, earth, you are too wonderful for anybody to realize you. Do any human beings ever realize life while they live it? Every minute?"
To Oh, the Beauty in a Life. And I need to fix my computer. Oh, the beauty in a life when it opens all the
join me in saying our closing words? May faith in the spirit of life, hope for the community of earth, and love for the sacred in one another be ours now and in all the days to come.
Hi, bud.
You have quite the challenge being the only musician here.
Yeah, and so it just, Leslie does it right into that.
Another new one, yeah.
I went over it and over and over because I kept rewriting the middle section.